Welcome friends to Sapper Woodworking. A neighbor of mine was having a cherry tree cut down and had commented that it would make a nice pile of firewood. Of course, the woodworker in me sees potential beyond just a nice warm burning flame. So the neighbor said, sure, take a couple of logs and see what you can do with them. I grabbed a couple of logs off of his pile, be sure to measure to make sure that the size logs would fit and be able to be cut up by my 12-inch grizzly bandsaw. Over 12 inches in diameter, so I was needing to shrink them a bit to fit in my bandsaw. I ended up taking out my electric handheld plane and shaved down one side maybe about an inch. In addition to making sure that the log would fit in my saw, it creates a nice flat surface to press against the base of my table when I'm running it through the bandsaw. The next thing I've done is taken the log over to my bandsaw for the process to cut it in half. In woodworking terms, this is called resawing. If it were a filet mignon, we might call it a butterfly. But I'll take the log with the flat spot that was created with the handheld plane up against the table, and I'll create a nice safe surface with the other corner wedged up against the fence, and I'll push the log right through the blade. The key is not to put too much pressure and let the blade do most of the work. And we have a nice, flat, even surface. With both the logs now cut in half and laid out on our workbench, it's time to move on to the next step where we're actually going to cut them into more of a circular shape and prepare them for use on the lathe. I've just taken a wood disc, cut into a size of about 11 inches, and screwed it in top of the half log, and we'll start the process back on the bandsaw of cutting out the bowl blank. The disc as attached to the top of the log is really just used as a rough guide to cut a somewhat circular pattern. It's not that important to make it exactly round at this step. You can see that I've actually cut into my template a little bit, but these are all been just made of scrap, and I'll cut new ones as I need them. Now back at the workbench, we'll go ahead and remove the disc template, and we have which is essentially a bowl blank ready for the lathe. However, in the case where I've made 4 and I won't be using 3 of them anytime soon, I'll take and brush a nice thick coat of anchor seal on top of the bowl blanks, which will help prevent them from drying out and cracking prematurely before I get a chance to use them. Anchor seal is a great product and I recommend it highly. Okay, now that I've got 3 of the 4 roughed out bowl blanks sealed up and prepared for long-term storage, I've taken one and mounted it on my lathe and started the process to turn my new cherry bowl. It's a bit hard to see in the video, but the bowl is wobbling pretty bad because it's off-center, which is quite normal when first rounding a roughed out bowl. As the bowl becomes more round, the machining becomes easier and easier with more material being taken off every turn of the bowl. Once the rough rounding is completed on the sides, I've moved the tool stand to the end and have started the process to smooth out the bottom and prepare it for reverse mounting. Once I've got the entire exterior of the bowl smoothed out somewhat, I'll move on to creating a recess in the bottom of the bowl that will accept my mechanical jaws so I can flip the bowl around and start the interior work. In this case, I carefully measure a circle on the bottom of the bowl about 2¼ inches in diameter that will accept my mechanical jaw chuck. So I've got the recess just about completed, and it's time for a test fit to make sure the jaw chuck fits, which it turned out that it fit perfectly on my first try. So I'll take the jaw chuck, mount it to the bottom of the bowl, and I'll take the bowl off the original mounting via the faceplate. I'll flip it around. I'll now be removing the faceplate, which was used to securely hold the wobbling bowl until it was round and steady. And now we'll move on to the fun process of hollowing out the interior of the bowl. For most of the work on this bowl, I decided just to use one single lathe tool, which is a carbide tipped cutter bit with a round carbide cutter surface. Other than cutting the recess for the jaw chuck, I've just used a single tool just to see if I could do it and to show the flexibility of the carbide tipped lathe tools. So this was a relatively fresh tree that was just cut down a couple of weeks ago, and it's impossible to show on video, but when you're cutting green wood like this, you can actually feel a little bit of misty water coming off the shavings as they fly by your hands. So this bowl was actually a standing tree just a few weeks ago, and the wood is entirely too wet in order to complete the process at this time. Additional steps are needed in order to finish the bowl. So I finished the roughing out of my bowl. I can't go through the finishing process yet until the wood dries. So what I've done on this 10-inch bowl is I've left about 1 inch of width. So when this bowl goes through the drying process, it will absolutely warp quite a bit. And that additional thickness here will enable me to return it as a nice round bowl. A typical way you might do that is to put the bowl in a box of sawdust from your project, seal it all up, and wait maybe 3 months, and the bowl will slowly dry to the point where you can finish it. But I have a trick that can probably accelerate that to about 3 weeks using this white bucket. So if you want to click on the subscribe button below and tune back in 3 weeks to a month, and we can see part 2 in the finishing process. Thanks. Have a nice day.